Sometimes I wanna go lock myself in a room and cry. And sometimes I wonder how it'll be if there were never lies. Sometimes I just wanna break
when I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind I hear my conscience call.
Sometimes I wanna do right, but I don't know where
when I'm
to
alone
start.
in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind I hear my conscience call.
Sometimes I wanna shut my mouth, sometimes I wanna scream. Sometimes I wanna go to sleep, sometimes I won't dream. Sometimes I wanna forget, sometimes I can't remember. Sometimes I neglect love letters, return to sender. Sometimes I need passion, and sometimes I need sex. And sometimes I'm only asking, why you keep texting your ex? Sometimes I wanna sit back with some yak and spit young facts. Sometimes I wanna run, sometimes I don't wanna come back. And sometimes I need to know things, sometimes I don't care. Sometimes you're calling me the problem, that's the problem right there. Sometimes I wish my dad's here, it's been a rough past year. Sometimes I think I shed my last tear, now that's fear. Sometimes I see seashells, sometimes I see shores. Sometimes you feed my seed for all the times I bleed for yours. Sometimes I like to give up, sometimes like to apply. Sometimes life gets split up, divides, I try to cry.
Sometimes I wanna go lock myself in a room
When I'm
and
alone in my room,
cry.
sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind I hear my conscience call.
And sometimes I wanna go lock myself in a room
When I'm
and
alone in my room,
cry.
sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind I hear my conscience call.
Now sometimes I wanna go back to school, act the fool. Sometimes I wish I followed all the money that crack move. Sometimes I wish I hit them, I shot them, live at the bottom. Sometimes I get them, got them, better forgiven than forgotten. Sometimes I get hate mail, sometimes I pay bail. And sometimes I can't slow down, sometimes my brakes fail. Sometimes I want stardom and sometimes I want peace. They don't match, that's a fact for Mr. Sometimes Beast. And sometimes I wanna be rich, sometimes wanna be poor, begging for more. Sometimes I wish God level my floor. Sometimes get on my knees, say please we OGs. Sometimes I just freeze like taking pics with no cheese. Sometimes I react wrong, sometimes I interact in a song so strong you think my mind's gone, but time's gone. Sometimes I wanna off myself, but then my son would die. Sometimes I'm dehydrated from life and I just can't cry.
Sometimes I wanna go lock myself in a room
When I'm
and
alone in my room,
cry.
sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind I hear my conscience call.
And sometimes I wanna go lock myself in a room
When I'm
and
alone in my room,
cry.
sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind I hear my conscience call.
Now sometimes I watch the news, sometimes I read the paper. Sometimes I watch Disney Channel, thinking that I'm safer. Sometimes I feel hot, sometimes not. Sometimes break out in cold sweats and chills, but still love all that I got. Sometimes I wish I had my dad, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I pass the graveyard, wanna pull in, but I won't. And sometimes things are meant to be better left unsaid. And sometimes cheaters get caught getting dressed under their bed. And sometimes my son asks me, Daddy, when you coming home? And sometimes I wanna tell him the truth in every shape and form. Sometimes they need answers, sometimes no second chances to address things as they are too late once the devil dances. Sometimes I need to sit back, sometimes I need to stand up. Sometimes I need to cop back, sometimes that thing jam up. Sometimes I wanna try to be something they can't deny, but what's the point if I ain't I, and my eyes can't cry?
Sometimes I wanna go lock myself in a room
When I'm
and
alone in my
cry.
room, sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind I hear my conscience call.
And sometimes I wanna go lock myself in a room
When I'm
and
alone in my room,
cry.
sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind I hear my conscience call.